Little problems when you're living is easy. Oh, hello students and warriors. Today we're going to be doing an activity at C1 level, which is called to play devil's advocate. In Spanish, that would be abogado de diablo. Abogado de diablo. Yeah, to play devil's advocate. So two things to start with. We have the noun and the verb. An advocate, to advocate. Advocate, advocate. Yeah, there's a different stress, there's a different sound on the vowel there, isn't there? And we do this a lot in English. To produce, dairy, produce. Yeah? Can you think of any others? So, let's give you some examples about the word advocate. So, well, first, let's say that abogado is lawyer, L-A-W-Y-E-R, lawyer. What we're talking about is to advocate. It's a regular verb. So, when I lived in Scotland, I advocated for expansion of national parks. I was an advocate of that cause. Nowadays, I'm an advocate of sustainability and community living. I advocate for changing our current system for a more micro way of living. Old school. Boom. And I pitch this class at B2 C1 level, really. I start teaching this type of thing at B2 C1 level. And it's related again to interaction skills. Now, yesterday, I did a series of videos and I mentioned playing Abogado de Diablo. My chicken's already up. Doggies are good. Because it's what you have to do, or sometimes you have to do. So let me give you a scenario. Imagine you're in an interaction, school official, there could be 3 of you, or in a Cambridge or TOEFL type situation, there might be 2 of you, right? You start, and your partner, who you've been put with, and you haven't worked together beforehand, which is a mistake, knows everything. He's a know-it-all. Tells all the good stuff, and leaves you with very little. What are you going to do? Are you going to just agree with them and then try and add more content? It's very difficult to do that. We haven't practiced that way. Our minds don't really work that way in order to score lots of points and marks. So you could just agree with them and go along with them. That's not going to slow them down. They're going to keep on going. Or you could disagree with them. But if they have the moral high ground, it's a great phrase, if they're saying all of the ethically correct things to say, and you start agreeing with them with the typical, in my opinion, I think, I believe, I reckon, which are all different ways to say the same thing, it means that you're owning the opposing view. And if that's the non-ethical view, that makes you sound like a hijo de puta. Or it makes you sound like a bad person, and it will affect your marks. It will. So, how do we go about playing devil's advocate? As I've said, your partner's saying all the right things, they're leaving you with very little room to maneuver and to add any content to score points. You don't want to disagree with them and say that that's your opinion, because you'll sound like a bad person. Shouldn't affect your marks, but it will. So you have to use phrases like, I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said. However, I'm going to play devil's advocate and suggest that blah, 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 blah. Or, that's an interesting point. However, an element of society might say Remember, speculative language is really important once we get past B2 level English. Maybe, perhaps, we should, we can assume that, all of that language. Very useful once you get higher on and you start discussing points and more in-depth themes. Anyway, you can say things like, oh, the media often portrays that. So in effect, I'm stating an opinion. I might even identify a specific group. The older generation, the younger generation, believe or might say that, etc., etc. Instead of saying the typical, I agree with you up to a point. It's a good phrase, but people use it a lot. I agree with you up to a point. However, I believe that, no. If it's not the ethical, moral opinion, try not to own it, even if that's what you do believe. The objective is to pass the exam, not to state your opinion, not to convince people of what you believe is the right thing. No, passing that exam. And we can use language and fixed phrases to help us. So that's what the activity today is all about. So I will support this video with some info memes and some content that will be in the thread below. But what we're going to do is I'm going to state opinions in video form, and ideally you would be working with a partner and you would take it in turns. One of you states that opinion, it's the opinion that I'm going to put below, or opinions that I'm going to put below, and they're going to defend it. And it should be easy for them to defend those opinions because they are the ethically correct things to say in the society that we live in. That person will have the moral high ground. And the difficulty, or the difficult part, is for the other person who's going to be trying to defend the non-ethical opinion. But that person cannot say, I think I believe in my opinion. They're going to try to defend that point of view, but not own that point of view. An element of society, oh, good point, I'm going to play devil's advocate. The media often portrays, etc., etc. And if you're working in pairs, what you can try and do is try and keep that conversation rally, boom, going backwards and forwards. 6 to 8 times is good enough. It depends. Obviously, using your interaction skills, which we covered yesterday. Can we remember? Agree, disagree, language, good question structures, and developing the argument. As well as speculative language, as well as playing devil's advocate. And I'm going to put up a few different videos of sentences, and so you can take it in turns. Now, if you're working on your own, you can interact with me in the comments below, or you can just write it out like a little script. Student A, student B, this is what he said, this is what they said, and do a little dialogue. You can even do it like puppets if you want, this hand and then that hand, hello, oh, like that. Hope that makes sense. Bye-bye. So, the first moral high ground statement is, unquestionably, women should be treated the same as men in all fields of industry. Unquestionably, women should be treated the same as men in all fields of industry. It is beyond doubt that we should embrace multiculturalism and allow migrant workers and immigrants from all countries to enter our country, especially when escaping from domestic or civil atrocities. Undoubtedly, we should be pushing for our governments to invest more in renewable energies and move away from an over-reliance in fossil fuels. Undoubtedly, we should be pushing our governments to invest more in renewable energies and move away from an over-reliance on fossil fuels. There's no question in my mind that the use of behaviour controlling pharmaceuticals should be used in the educational classroom to control high energy students as a last resort. It is clear that English as a language to communicate with all of the world and to gain knowledge on important topics is the most important language to learn. In these times of transition, we should wholeheartedly put our faith and trust in our governments to look after us because they know what they're doing. It is very apparent in the current climate that we should be reducing the amount of meat that we consume and produce in an industrial manner and looking to sustainable, viable solutions to avoid serious repercussions in the future. Okay, so you've got your sentences to practice with, either practice in partners or practice individually, writing out a dialogue or thinking about a dialogue, or find yourself a good teacher, I know a few, and get practicing and listen to their corrections whilst doing this activity. Trust me, once you're working at B2 plus level, you need to be thinking about speculative language, not definite statements. You need to be thinking about playing devil's advocate on occasion. And you need to include this all within your interaction skills, which is what we spoke about yesterday. This is Steve and the dog patrol from Navarra Outdoor Education, Project Huerta Chotto Hill Farm, and Shaman of the Cheeky Monkey Owl Warrior Clan.